Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July episode of the Nightmares to Miracles podcast. My name is Brittany Van Rees, and I'm here with Dr. Dave Asomaning, and together we're going to talk about miracle mindsets yet again. We love doing this. We've been doing this show for several years now. I think we're starting to lose count of how many years. It's been over 5 years. I'm not sure if it's 6 or 5 or 7, but it's somewhere up there, and we plan to keep going as long as we can. So thank you guys for tuning in today. And we have a great episode in our theme for this year, which is on peace. And today we are going to be covering another section from A Course in Miracles, where Dave is going to walk us through how that section correlates with the peace theme and how we can use that to cultivate more miracles in our lives. So Dave, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how you got into executive coaching, if that's part of the intro you want to give today. And I can't wait to hear what you have in store for us.
Great, Brittany. Good to see you for our July 2026 podcast and this call. I believe we're in our sixth year. We're in the middle of our sixth full year doing this podcast, although it's hard to believe that we were working for several years before we got to the podcast. And we'll say a little bit about that in just a moment. But yeah, thank you for that intro. Our theme, which we'll continue for today, is peace in A Course in Miracles. And so uh, I work with ultra high net worth people, which is about working with clients who have crises mostly. And one of my programs is called Nightmares to Miracles in the Miracle Mindset process. And that's really my best and highest use is working with people who are, uh, let's say they've had a liquidity event, they've received a wire for $60 million selling their company. And at the same time, they're having an increase in panic attacks, or they're having a wellness or health issue, which is a crisis for them. They're having an issue with their child, or they're getting divorced or separated, or any number of life issues that accompany this enormous influx of wealth. Or maybe they've had their wealth for a while. And so, with the utmost respect, whenever I say this part, I love doing this work with my clients. They're smart, capable people, but they're human. And like all humans, they go through ups and downs with suffering and nightmares. And it's my privilege and my pleasure to help them navigate in what we call miracle mindset, which is not exactly therapy, although it has healing elements in it. It's not just coaching on the practical side to help people get to where they want, because a lot of these people have already made multiple millions of dollars without me anywhere near them. So it's not really just that. And then it's not like being their pastor in terms of spiritual care. It's miracle mindset and the specific things that allow us to have miracles when we're dealing with something that just seems impossible to solve. So it's those three things that I do with them. And the story for today, real quickly, I'm not in a rush, but I am trying to be crisp today because of time issues for us, is that, let's see. So, and I've shared bits of this elsewhere, but today the focus is on why I'm interested in billionaires as part of this process, right? So it's a ladder of ultra high net worth clients. And I think the client that with the highest net worth I've worked with and supported was at maybe, let's say, 300 million, and I mean, that's a lot of money. And their lifestyle and all the things they do and the jets and the yachts and the mansions and traveling here and there, it's all there. But, I think the thing that got me interested in billionaires was in 1992. Ironically, I was serving as a chaplain at Hartford Hospital as part of my ministerial training. I wanted to become an Episcopal priest. I dropped out of that process for those who aren't familiar with the story. And so I was assigned to the transplant unit, but it could also be on call for any kind of a death or imminent death or anything like that. And I used to like to go to the bookstore in the hospital and just browse books and stuff. And I hit on a magazine from Forbes in 1992, and the issue was entitled "The World's 291 Billionaires." and picked up the magazine and was going through it. I had never even picked up a Forbes before. I just didn't know anything about it. 291 billionaires. And that magazine, that issue in particular, I have it documented, recorded, PDF'd. It became a little bit of a guiding star for me. Just one other thing to complete the loop on this story. So, this is not it, the one little thing, but on the way to the one other little thing, there are now 3,428 billionaires as of a Google search this morning, right? So from 291 to about 3,500 billionaires in the world. And that process has just continued and continued. So I'll tell you, the thing that got me really like obsessed, like when you want to go to a certain college or you want to get a certain job somewhere, blah, blah, blah. I visited my dad in Ghana, West Africa, like was doing periodically. And we had a great visit. I would usually go for 6 weeks and I'd buy my round trip ticket to sit and coach, usually KLM or British Airways. It would be $1,100 for the round trip at the time. And I'm 6'5" and about 250 pounds. I'm a big guy. So, and I didn't even think anything of it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is the way you get to Ghana if you got to go see your father. So, and this is how you get back. So I would just squeeze in and, play my part to get there. But when I was coming back on this one time, uh, this is before the Forbes magazine, but I was coming back. A family friend worked for British Airways at the airport, and she approached me and said, hey, look, will you do me a favor? And I was like, what do you want? And she said, I got this 11-year-old kid. He's traveling unaccompanied as a minor. And if you just keep an eye on him to Gatwick, which is your connecting flight, that would really help me out. I was like, sure, yeah, you guys are great. You hosted us. We've had great time with you all, family, friends. And so I took that on. The kid came in, and then my family's friend, she upgraded me to business class as a reward. And business class was like, I was stretched out. I was like, hot towels every 30 minutes, champagne, blah, 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 blah. The kid was somewhere else over there. I was just keeping an eye on him, made friends in here. These were like the creme de la creme, the wealthy people. So I got to Gatwick and I rushed to the British Airways desk and I said, I just came in from Accra on a business class flight. How much would it cost me to go from Gatwick to JFK or whatever it was at the time? They said, well, the flight you came in on was probably about $5,000. So the rest of the trip is about $5,000. So that one way is $10,000. And I was like, wow, round trip, that means that would have been 20,000 compared to my 1,100 in coach. I was never the same again. I was never the same again. I was so ashamed of myself that I had blinders on. And until this experience, I had no idea that on the same plane was this other world of relaxation and comfort and the fit for my size. So I became obsessed from that time on. Like, if there's something that would suit me in life, I really want to know about it. I don't want to go through life being ignorant because that's what I was at the time. I was just plain old ignorant, blinders, and I wanted to be a monk, sworn to chastity, poverty, and obedience. So I wasn't paying attention. So really, that got me into the wealth thing. I was like, really, really like, okay. I mean, I should be able to afford something like that very easily and not be sweating about how to go, transatlantic flight to Africa in a comfortable way. So anyway, that's the billionaire thing coming after that was like the perfect next step to like continue to open my mind. So um, thank you for your patience and listening to all of that. Anything you want to say or ask, and then we'll continue.
I think I've heard you tell that story before, but I think you might have left out the dollar amounts, and now I'm like, oh, it really has to be 20 times more than the other seat. Like that's not fair.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's wild. It makes me think the first class and business class, they're really subsidizing the cost of the plane for everybody else, huh? Because they're not getting 20 times the service.
That's exactly right. But that's also related to my fees and stuff. It's the
Yeah,
same concept, I'm
yeah,
like, yeah, okay,
not one-to-one, it's value, it's just yeah, value-based.
entirely. And
Mhm,
if somebody has the perception that, to exactly what you said about value-based pricing, if somebody has I'm not trying to gouge anybody, but there's a way in which things can be set up so that people love the service
mhm,
and they pay for it without flinching,
mhm,
asking any questions. It's something that they can just easily afford. And the other little story that I put in here is about Mark Cuban. I never watched Shark Tank. I'm not a fan of that show. I really don't know a lot about it, so I can't criticize it one way or another. But I hate things where people are on the spot and they're competing and they could be thumbs down. Those things make me nervous, so I don't watch that too much. And he goes back and forth politically. But one of the things I've shared before, which is all part of this way of thinking at the ultra high net worth level, is in 2024 when on Twitter he said, "Oh yeah, my Price Waterhouse Coopers or whatever it is, the consulting company that did his taxes, they had just given his tax bill and he sent to the IRS $288 million was the amount he wired to the IRS. And that was just for the final quarter of the year. He had paid it in quarters three previous times, I believe is what the implication of the story was. So I was like, but that one quarter of like $288 million as a billionaire to
mhm,
pay for your taxes. I was like, that was a little bit like that first epiphany when I got upgraded to business class. It's like,
mhm,
wow. I mean, there are some people who are do it's on some level, like you said, it's not fair. You could be tempted to think that way, but or we could. Anyway, so that's the or part of the origin of the ultra high net worth thing. Part of it. I've had mentors and other people, a lot of different things, but so we'll shift gears now to the rest of our program for today. Um, one of the things that I usually like to do is talk about the miraculous process we've been through together, right? And I mentioned earlier that we I think did about 3 years worth of work with you using your design skills to help me make better worksheets. And I mean, I was stumbling and fumbling my way through this because I just wanted something that was better than what I was doing in Microsoft Word to give to my clients when I would onboard them. And every time you would send me something back, I'd be like, wow, that's such a revelation. It's so amazing the work you're doing. Well, can you do this for me? And can you do this for me? And can you do, and you were just upgrading my brand on so many different levels. And then at some point, I asked you if you could help me with the modules for my online course, and I wanted to get the modules done just as another thing I could check off. I wasn't really obsessed with selling the course or promoting the course. It was just like, okay, I have the course. If somebody wants the course, I can give them the course. But so you did that beautifully. Videos from my audio because I didn't want to be on camera at that point. But intros, outros, worksheets, we set up the website for it, the whole thing. And then from there, I got ambitious to finish my book, Nightmares to Miracles, same name as the course, and was able to use the course modules that you'd helped me with to hire help to put the book together. Um, I mean, I wrote the book, but I had somebody organize it and show me how to make it a more effective instrument for my brand. And then after the book came out, this is the last sort of one of the main inflection points for us in our journey, miraculous inflection points. I checked in with you somewhat tentatively because I had loaded you up with so many of my projects over time. I was like, Brittany, might you perhaps, maybe be able to help me, perhaps sometime, maybe with my, my podcast that I want to do? I have no idea about podcasting, but I feel like I want to do it. And I don't want to do it by myself. I think that would be very boring. And you were like, well, yeah, let's look into it and see. And then ultimately the answer was yes. And that's where we are now, 6 years later. It's so much fun to do this. And the learning is just there all the time. And then, quite apart from what we're doing now, I always hasten to add, is where you will um, edit, design, reconfigure, put things into YouTube where people can check it out as a video. You'll put it into a written blog form where you could just read it if they want. You'll put it into an audio podcast. And then I can take all of that. And again, with some people that help me, we can distribute it to all the socials. I have 11 different social media platforms where this all goes to. And the whole thing is just so miraculous. So anyway, I wanted to thank you. And I always like to say this as a big anchor to our work together, that at the heart of our work is this amazing miracle of synergy and working together, and we've never met in person. I get such a laugh out of adding that we've never actually met in person. So anything you would like to add, Brittany, about your work, and shout out to people where they can find you, and just go for it.
Thank you, Dave, for that amazing shout out. I always look forward to this part of the show, and we get to reminisce about how we first started working together. It's such a good story, and thank you for this opportunity to do this podcast. It wasn't initially my alley, miracle mindsets, but now it's become part of my lifestyle as well, where I can use some of the tools that you're teaching me and do the practices with the audience, that we do the little call to action and encourage them to do certain things at the end of each show. So it's been a real growing experience for me as well, professionally, personally, and otherwise. So thank you very much. My website is brittanynew.com, my maiden name New, and that's where people can find me and find out more about what I do and how to work with me. And I also have a YouTube channel, which is under my maiden name, Brittany New. And then there I have some tutorial videos on ways that you can improve your branding, your media, and integrate AI into your business. So that's a bit of what I do. But yeah, it's been really a great experience, and I always look forward to this every month. We've been so consistent. And that's largely thanks to you and your planning and your prep and your leadership here. So yeah, it's been such a pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm so glad you mentioned the AI part of your work. It's a real cutting edge in so many ways. You've
Thank you.
sampled things for me and avatars and different things. Like, yeah. So if you didn't say it, I was going to say, tell us a little bit about your AI stuff. So that's great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for the kudos and the affirmation. It's a great team. So thankful
Mhm.
to the universe, to the divine, to God, whoever, even
Yes.
in our audience that you speak to. It's all ultimately coming from one place, but I just feel a lot of divine love in our process,
Hmm.
and the way we do it. And we've just had such a, again, knock on wood, I'm not superstitious or anything, but we've had a great, fluid, flowing relationship
Hmm.
as we've evolved through the seasons of life. So thanks, Brittany. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So the next part of what we're going to do is the actual lesson itself, or the text from A Course in Miracles. And then that'll be followed by the segment that we do around things in the media, just highlights that we bring, news items that are going on, and we do it in a very non-controversial way for us. We're not debating, we're not arguing. It's not like TMZ or People Magazine or any of those things. It's or even the talking head things on Fox or MSN now, CNN. It's really just bringing the issue to the divine light, that in the light of what we've been discussing from the miracle mindset process, and asking for divine help with it as an issue for the world. So that's it. That's the remainder of the call. So our text for today's work on miracle mindset is from lesson. No, excuse me. I keep saying lesson. It's not really a lesson. It's from the text of the course itself. It's in two parts. So there's the text, uh, chapter 14, section 11, and then 5 to 7. And then we have uh, chapter 14, section 11, 12 to 15. And the reason it's chopped up that way is because these are the passages that talk about peace the most, right? So each of the passages that we use for, whether it's a lesson or a text like this today, each of the sections is picked in order to amplify this idea of peace for this year. And when we get to November, we switch over to the next theme for 2027. We always do it 2 months early in the preceding year. So here we go. Starting out, I'm just going to read the first paragraph, which sets the stage. It says, this is paragraph 5 from section 11 of chapter 14. You have one test, as sure as God, by which to recognize if what you learned is true. If you are wholly free of fear of any kind, and if all those who meet you or even think of you share in your perfect peace, then you can be sure that you have learned God's lesson and not your own. Unless all this is true, there are dark lessons in your mind that hurt and hinder you and everyone around you. The absence of perfect peace means but one thing. You think you do not will for God's son or child what God wills for them. Every dark lesson teaches this in one form or another, and each bright lesson with which the Holy Spirit will replace the dark ones you do not accept teaches you that you will with the Father and the Son. Okay, so basically, in a nutshell, it's pretty self explanatory, it's pretty clear. It's like we're in this learning process, right? About God, about the universe, about the divine power inside of us, about miracle mindset. And this whole passage is really just setting the tone and saying, if we don't have peace as the dominating characteristic of our lives, we feel peace and people feel peace when they're with us, then we haven't really understood what we're learning. We don't have a good grasp of it because there are still parts of the psyche that are prone to darkness, which in the Course usually means fear, guilt, and anger, right? And that the light hasn't come and released us. So we're still kind of tortured and we're torturing other people, regardless of what we say. So that sets the tone for the whole rest of this about how to aim for peace first and foremost, right? To be desirous of peace, to be drawing peace in, to be enjoying peace. So anything you want to say, uh, not to put you on the spot or anything, but just want to breathe a little bit, let it uh, by checking in with you.
Yeah, I like how it says that there are dark lessons and bright lessons. So could you maybe define the difference between the dark lessons and the bright lessons?
Yeah, well, I think that the bright lessons are the joy with which we approach the divine. It's like, oh,
Mhm,
I can't wait to spend quiet time with God and just bask in God's love and all the good things that come from that powerful, divine, supreme love. Then the dark lessons are, man, I hate me some people, man. I
mm,
hate this one. I hate that one. I can't stand this person. Oh, God, I got to go visit with this person. I just can't stand it. They turn me off. I just get the ick from them or whatever. They hurt me. They abused me, or a group of people that I think, yeah, that group of people, they just suck, whatever. I mean, there's a million different negatively oriented things where the dark lesson is the releasing
mhm,
of the fear, guilt, and anger. That's
mm,
very different from the rushing with joy towards the divine light. Does that make
mhm.
any sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great question. I appreciate your asking it too. That's fantastic. Anything else for you?
No, I just sometimes, because I haven't read the book cover to cover, I
Yes,
wonder if there's, like, previous definitions that would be helpful, but it's, yeah, self-explanatory, like you said.
right.
Mhm,
Well, good. So the only other big thing I wanted to add here is the rest of the text, the sections that I mentioned, are encouraging us to give voice to a certain level of incompetence when it comes to the things we're not good at yet. So
mm,
by that I mean, for instance, if we don't know something, either in miracle mindset or some other part of life, or it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't grasp it. I don't get it. I don't know how to do it. I'm kind of incompetent here, you know, and that doing that allows us to relearn what we need to learn, whether it's a dark lesson or a light lesson, in order to have more peace.
Mm.
And trying to protect some level of ignorance because the ego is ashamed or unwilling to surrender. Or so at first, when I read this in preparation for my once a month group call where people actually joined the call and we discussed this, I was a little bit sort of uh, I wasn't upset with it, but it didn't sit well with me because I was like, okay, how about all the things we've learned? I mean, I've been studying this since 1995, and I wouldn't say I'm an expert or anything, but I do know a fair amount of what it's teaching. Are you saying to me that I'm still incompetent and I don't know anything? And I mean, it's okay with me if that's what you're saying, but it doesn't fit with my experience because I've had amazing miracles by applying the teachings. And so I should throw all of that out the window. And I was a little bit sort of grumbling. I had some grumbling vibes about it, let's say. And anyway, this is how I explained it on the call, how I got resolution. It came pretty quickly and I got the resolution. So hopefully it's not a completely lame metaphor. And I think I've used this before in other things too. But the way that I understand is that, like, I use the GPS, the divine GPS in Texas, and there's red lines and blue lines and this and that, stop signs and whatever. And I mean, the GPS makes sense in Texas when I'm in Houston or whatever. Go this way, don't go this way, whatever. Then I come to New York City and I'm trying to use the same GPS instructions that I downloaded for Houston in New York City. And it's blue lines and red lines and stop signs. It all looks the same, but it's going to be completely meaningless, if it'll even work, because I'm borrowing some kind of formula from a place where I had good success with it, and I'm applying it to the completely wrong place. And I'm not
Mm.
actually in touch with the actual real GPS, right? So that resolves my grumbling attitude about it. I was like, oh, I get what you're saying. You say you want us to reset and say we don't know in this new area, and we're
Mm.
willing to be guided by your voice, not some formula we've come to
Mm.
rely on. And it just resolved the whole thing. I was like, oh, okay, great. I get it. Case closed. So, and again, it's not really the whole emphasis of this is not how clever I am about the example. It's just that I was guided to try and understand what the benefit is of learning things anew so that they fit the circumstance and it's not just some archaic formula that we're borrowing from somewhere. So that would wrap up the kind of the heart of the text for today. There's just one other to do, which I'm invoking lesson. What's the lesson I'm invoking for that? Lesson 77, I think it is. Let me just see, or 71. I need to check. Um, so in lesson 71, uh, there it says only God's plan for salvation will work in lesson 71. Um, Powerful lesson. And it helps us to lean in more closely to God's directions about what to do, right? But there's a very specific section that I wanted to read real quickly, and then I'll hand it back over to you, Brittany, um, before we get to the headlines. Uh, so it says, if ever we're confused about what the divine's purpose is for us in any kind of a setting, we should ask the following questions of the divine. What would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? But we want to
Mm.
get familiar with asking these questions in any circumstance, anytime, anywhere. So while we did a section of the text, which is more theoretical, about the fact that if we don't have peace, it means we haven't learned things properly. And we
Mm.
need to admit that and relearn what we haven't learned. And one of the
Mm.
best ways to learn it is to just be okay with the fact that we're kind of incompetent with
Mhm.
this new situation and how to apply the divine voice to it. I picked a lesson that actually gives us what to ask the GPS. It's like, what would you have me do? Where would you have me go? What would you have me say? And to whom? So that would be an exercise that I invite everyone to practice not to infringe on your territory, Brittany. You're the one who usually does the call to action. So anything else you want to say or ask about this before we get to the headlines and then move towards closure for today?
Yeah, no, this is a great lesson. It's a very good reminder the importance of just keeping a humble attitude in all of this because we, as miracle workers, we like to think that we have acquired the skill or we know how to put this into action. But being humble is part of the process. So we don't want to be too self glorifying or think that we are doing the work of the divine. That's one way to get humbled by the universe really quickly. We've all been there, I think, at some point. But yeah, I think this is a really good reminder of that. And those 4 questions are really helpful. So I'll borrow that for the call to action at the end.
Good. Good. You reminded me, I sometimes overuse things, I guess, in a very sort of hackneyed way. But when you said, oh, yeah, we need to be humble, I was like, yeah, I love this phrase that I picked up somewhere a while back. It says, yeah, just don't hurt yourself, patting yourself on the back in a self-congratulatory way. It's like, yeah, be careful. If you pat yourself too hard on the back, you might hurt your hand, you know?
Oh,
So
that's a good one.
it's a very funny way of reminding ourselves. So even with the things that we're grateful for, and we don't have a corner on it per se. Every situation is new with new opportunities for learning. So beautifully said. Thank you, Brittany.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go to the headlines. And came up with a few headlines here. Uh, and we can trade headlines. Anything you want to say that's standing out to you, if I'm not putting you on the spot, or I can go first, whatever you'd like.
The only headline that's on my mind fresh now is that Spain has won the World Cup, so that's something.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And it's the end of the World Cup.
yeah, yeah.
The world is dominated by this in a good way. It brought the world together in so many ways, so many cultures. That's what people were saying to me, clients and others. They were like, oh, yeah, just such a rich, like, variety of cultures, and it's so good to see. And I'm also glad that in some ways the United States didn't get in the way,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
in anticipation of the World Cup, we were talking about how the United States really seemed to be somewhat hostile
Mhm.
to the spirit of the World Cup with
Mhm.
ice and all this crazy stuff that was happening. And they were talking about they were going to be at the stadiums in the US trying to take people down. And I mean, it was just making it, and visas and getting
Mhm.
into the country. And there was so much threat and, like, you know, it seemed like negative vibes around it. And then a lot of that just kind of disappeared in favor of the events themselves. So, um, great headline, Brittany. Thank you for that. Excellent. Um, so again, people are responding to the halftime show. Some people really liked it. Some people hated it. They're like, "Oh, America, man!" They're trying to make this like American football with the
Mm.
ads and stuff because it's the first time they've ever done it. So
Mm.
it's an interesting cultural thing to see if in I guess it's 4 years from now, wherever it's hosted, will they do like a halftime show or that kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
Interesting, right?
Mhm.
So let's see a couple of other quick things. Trump gave a speech about election fraud
Mm.
uh, last week. It's generally agreed upon that he's still litigating this in his head about Biden's win plan, and there is no fraud or very minimal fraud, but he's trying to set it up so that with these midterms coming up, it sows doubt in people's minds so
Mm.
that they can challenge any elections that are not to their liking, any election results. Todd Blanche is also he was undergoing confirmation hearings last week to become the uh, uh, attorney general. And with the victims of the Epstein thing, we've talked about this. Wasn't really, you know, showing any willingness to continue to deal with the 3 million remaining documents that have not been exposed, or the victims and their concerns about not having had a fair hearing about all of this. To him, it's all closed anyway. And he was taking a lot of heat from all kinds of sides, but he was just adamant that there's nothing to see here.
Mm.
Uh, and so it's not clear, will he get confirmed? Will he not get confirmed? Graham Plattner, who was running for Senate in Maine as a Democrat, he had to withdraw because Democrats were like, "Yeah, you're not a suitable candidate. We're not
Mm.
we're not going to get behind you." So much support was withdrawn for him. Now, again, I'm not making this a partisan thing. I'm just saying what the news is. But Ken Paxton, who is probably going to face off with Tallarico, the Democrat Tallarico, he's generally perceived as a very unsavory, corrupt Republican candidate
Mm.
for, I guess, Senate maybe or Congress. I can't remember in Texas. But and then people get down on the Democrats. They're like, "Yeah, you people don't know how to win." You know,
Mm.
when you have somebody who's got the wind at his back and he's got problems, you're going to insist that that person re- withdraw because you want to take the moral high ground. The Republicans never do that about anything. So that's shame on you if you don't win because you beat up your candidates. Now,
Mm.
like I said, we don't take sides. We don't argue this too much. But uh, last thing on my headline list: Taylor Swift
Mm.
and Travis Kelsey got married, and
Mhm.
that was a big to do. Madison Square Garden. Some people say it was $40 million. Some people say it was $140 million.
Wow.
I don't know, but it was interesting.
Mm.
So those are headlines. Anything else you want to say or comment on any of the headlines, one way or the other? We're just bringing all of this to Miracle Mindset for the
Mhm.
universe to inject and infuse divine perfection into all of it so we
Mhm.
don't have to argue and debate and fuss about it. Just, for it to be part of the miracle mindset process at the divine level.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think I have any other headlines. I've been traveling, so not really
Yeah.
watching, much going on except, the World Cup was in my face, but other than that, yeah, I was aware of the wedding and, not so much the political stuff,
Yeah.
no. Mm.
Yeah. Fantastic. I
Yeah,
always say, oh, go ahead.
the impending war in Iran, it's been an ongoing headline, but we definitely wanna send, peace in that direction in the Middle East and everywhere.
Totally. To your point, this escalated the bombing the last week or so. They've been bombing every day.
Mm.
Uh,
Mm.
and again,
Awful.
people are like, what's the point of this war? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I know I might sound like a tilt to the left, and I do. I am on the left, but
Mhm.
my goal is not to demonize this. And increasingly, the way I apply this in my daily life is my nephew who's visiting from France, when we argue and debate stuff, and I say, all the negative things I want to say about this person or that person, celebrities, Trump, whatever. And then at the end, I say, no, but there's a level on which Trump is completely perfect. He's a perfect spiritual being. And this part of his expression at the 3D level
Mhm.
is something that we can all improve on if we don't like it by invoking his 5D perfect self. And I can do that about everything all the time and can use that to punctuate every conversation, which I'm trying to do more consistently. And he'll laugh and laugh and laugh. My nephew, he'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, the 5D Trump versus the 3D Trump. I hear you. So,
Mhm.
anyway, that's what we're doing here. So,
Beautiful.
and again, lest somebody on a side who's listening to us says, no, well, I'm going to cancel you because you don't have enough disdain for Trump with this 3D and 5D nonsense. So I don't like you anymore. Okay, I understand. But again, it's in the movie, I can say all the things I don't like about him or anybody else in politics or outside of politics. But there's a place of perfection for all of us, bless you, outside of the movie. And Miracle Mindset is about knowing how to travel between the two places, light lessons and dark lessons. All right. You have the final word from here on out, Britt. Anything you want to say, add to, call to action, all the concluding things?
Yeah, thank you, Dave, for a great episode today and a great lesson to talk about. And I want to forward that call to action and say we've got these 4 questions to help us kind of stay humble and renew our minds for every single challenge that we need to use Miracle Mindset to overcome. So the 4 questions were, what should I do? I might need your help. What should
Yeah.
I do?
Where should
Um,
I go?
where should I go? Who should I talk to?
What?
And what should I say?
Yes.
Right?
Perfect. Yes.
Okay. So that's really great. And my dad always reminds me of this. Sometimes you are the miracle. Sometimes you are the vehicle for someone else's miracle. So that who should I talk to and what should I say can be big in being the vessel of someone else's miracle and being used by God. So never overlook yourself as someone to be used by God. And you never know. You might be getting a miracle by talking to that person. You might be the miracle by talking to that person. You never know, or both in a synergistic way. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and we hope you got something out of this today. And thanks again, Dave, for shedding light on this A Course in Miracles and bringing it into our awareness. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Brittany. Always a pleasure to do this with you, and just another great show. And look forward to posting it all when it's ready in all the different places, and for our audience to be able to follow up in whatever way you want to, and it makes sense to you. Thanks for those of you who join us
Mm-hmm.
on our recordings of this. Your feedback means a lot to us.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you text us individually, email us, write comments, uh, it's we're still in the baby step mode, and every little bit is an encouragement to us all over the place. So thank you, Brittany. Always just an amazing job what you do, and um, everyone, we'll see you. We'll see you for the August 2026 call in a month.
Yes, see you next month. Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Brittany. Bye for now.
And